From the top rope, this is the Squared Circus.
Square! Ah! That's the cult phenomenon. You know what I think?
Recording in progress.
I realize I like paint.
That was a botch. Hold on.
So, anyway, that's how it's gonna go.
Recording in progress. That has been a long time since we heard that.
Many months.
It's been many months. It's almost been, I would say, like about 5 months.
A bazillion.
What's funny about that is that we started this stupid little podcast about Punk, and now we're going to talk about Punk again because he's back.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about something nobody else is talking about. Like
Absolutely.
CM Punk.
Yes, because it's on every fucking article, since he left, since he was there, since he left, and now it's been nothing but Punk.
You know, it's funny because usually people don't like to talk about controversial figures like this. They don't want to have strong opinions, especially on the internet. People like keep their opinions to themselves and not chime in because they know these controversial topics have nuance and subtlety and complexities. So nobody wants to get too involved.
I know. I have never heard anyone bash him or even praise him because that's all you see. You know what's funny about that, now that you mention it, there's no middle ground. Have you noticed that there's no middle where I don't hear a lot of people saying, oh, he's okay, I don't really mind him but I don't hate him either. It's either you hate him or you love him. That's really the two major things that I always see.
We're here to be the middle ground. I think the middle. I want to be the middle ground.
I do want to be the middle ground because I do, regardless of what my opinions are of him as a person and all this other bullshit, and even if the ratings weren't as great the last one around, I think it was only 500,000 or 600,000. I told you. So but he is in every fucking article. So regardless if you hate him or love him, he's in the news.
Yeah,
constantly. So you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, he has no merit or he has no,
he has value. I mean,
yes.
Okay. If we just take the first collision, what did they get? 816,000, I think was the number. Which is
amazing on a Saturday.
It's good on a Saturday, but it was still less than Dynamite. So on one hand, you can say well, did he draw better than the regular Dynamite show? If you listen to the way people talk him up, there should have been 2 million people tuning in for that.
Yeah,
for Collision.
The viewers though. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I mean, that said, he added a lot to that show. Mm-hmm. Even if you didn't care for the promo or the match, he brought so much energy to the show, and he really brought, even the other day with Forbidden Door, where it was mostly anti-Punk. Mm-hmm. There was just a ton of energy.
Yeah.
And I think with that first Collision, there was energy just going through the whole show, and his
it's also in Chicago.
And it was in Chicago, but it really made it feel it almost felt like a pay-per-view. It felt like a big deal. And I'll give that to him. But the rating was still eh.
But see, the ratings though, I'm not really a huge ratings, because I know obviously the networks are, but I'm not a huge ratings person because at the same time it was a Saturday night. So it's very hard slot at 8:00. Sure. Most people are out getting drunk like we are, and and things like that. I've been stoned and drunk all day, but so most people are out and partying and doing shit. So it's very hard for that. So the fact that they got over 800,000 is still really good to me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I understand it died out, but also the ratings suck because they don't go with all the people who DVR it, watch it later on, watch it online. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't, they don't count for those. And I really feel that most of people on all these wrestling shows, a lot of them are probably watching them on DVR. Maybe Raw, not because of who the fuck goes out on a Monday, but I will say that because of the ratings and stuff like that, so it's it's kind of hit or miss. Like you can't really just base it just on that. I mainly,
agree.
I mainly base it on the fact that, my God, every single forum and every single article and it was always about him. Either is he coming back? Is he going to WWE? Is he like his name was not out of articles this whole entire time he was out from the scrum.
Yeah, it never stopped. And I mean, it also in fairness to him, like, how do you live up to that hype, or how do you keep the momentum? Like that first show back, A, it was in Chicago. B, it was like 9 months of waiting. But like, so yeah, you're gonna have that big show feel, but not Paul White big show. But
it's funny though, because I said this before in the first podcast, is that I said I feel like his name is more important than actually he is. It became almost a landmark where he became more of a what's the word, like a marketing thing of just his name than he is actually, because he's not really the best in the ring, especially now. He's definitely rusty in the ring. Hasn't been the same. Yes, he's still good on the mic, but there's so many people that could be way better on in the ring than he is. There's people who get a lot more cheers, Eddie Kingston, than he does. so I have to keep it going. But but I think his name
Eddie.
alone, I do love Eddie. I think his name alone though makes it where does that make sense? Where like it's almost like just hearing his name, everyone sparks up and says something, and even if they have people talking that hasn't even watched a match. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they don't even know anything his history. They just know the name, so they're gonna fucking say something anyway.
There's also the fact that he has become, well, he originally became sort of an avatar for like anti WWE fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would chant CM Punk at a WWE show when they didn't like what was going on, and that was their way of saying, we don't like this.
Yeah.
And CM Punk is kind of like, the figurehead of like, anybody, because the idea was that he left because he was unhappy and he wasn't treated right, and Vince wasn't, making the right decisions and wasn't treating people right. So like Punk embodied everything that fans didn't like about WWE. Now it's become the same thing for AEW, where he's become this
answer.
That wasn't the word I was going to use, but the same thing. He's become like a symbol.
Yeah.
What people don't like about AEW, right? The people who like want to tune in, but they don't like the flippy stuff. They don't like Kenny Omega's histrionics. They want somebody who's just like Punk, who like does promos, who's like, or also who don't like Hangman, even though like in the ring he checks all the boxes for like traditional wrestler, except he does a couple of like he does a moonsault and a couple of flippy things, but for the most part he's just kind of like an old school wrestler, but his whole shtick of kind of being like introspective, equivocal, millennial cowboy thing, people didn't like that because they thought he was quote unquote soft. They wanted somebody like Punk, who's like, I don't compromise, blah, blah, blah. Punk rock, don't tell me what to do. And I love punk rock, obviously, as you know. Richie, not people listening, but so to a lot of people, like Punk was like the opposite of that. He was what they wanted WWE to be, AEW to be. Too many whiskeys. This one's for you, Punk. And so that's why like he got aligned, I think, to some degree with FTR, who also kind of is an embodiment of that old school style and more like tough and just like, meat and potatoes than like flashy or equivocal.
Like the Bucks. So I get it. But I also
nerdy. I don't forget nerdy. I think a lot of people don't like the nerdiness of like guys like Omega and stuff like that,
Yeah, that's true.
Video game.
It's the same people. Yep, and the same people who don't like Danhausen or fucking what's it called? Orange Cassidy. Yeah. Who has been going still on a good run. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Love Orange.
Yeah, he still gets a crowd pop every single time. But so it's interesting to see the boos and the cheers for Punk, but like I think he likes that because I think he wants to be somewhere in between. He's trying to be the anti-hero type per se, but I feel like his last promo was kind of like really cocky to me. Like I don't know, it just seemed like he became more of a cocky prick. That because I mean the ratings are still going to be there. You're still going to get $600,000, 600,000 views. Sorry, still anyway, on a Saturday. But it doesn't change the fact that people are still buying his merch, still know his name. Just his name alone will get people. So I do agree with that to that a certain extent. I did hear that there's still issues already behind the scenes and backstage because of his promos and him being back. Like a lot of people don't want to work with him. So I think that's why they did have the two, like not a brand split. They're not calling it that, but still it's probably like people who don't want to work with him, you don't have to be on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of shit. I do feel like that's happening, even though they're not trying to say it, actual in face value.
Yeah.
But
Tony gets, that's another thing. We talked about this previously, but since it's been 8 bazillion years since we recorded anything, Tony kind of created this monster also in Punk's defense. Like,
yes,
Tony built him up to be this sort of, I don't know what the analogy is. Frankenstein's not the analogy. Charismatic Frankenstein.
yeah. Well, it comes down to the like Khan is for some reason has a huge heart on for Punk, and I understand why, because it's almost like he feels like he won, that he got the whole anti fucking hero, like so I get it, and even him coming back, I feel like he feels like he won. You know what I'm saying? Like and
he's a fan.
He's a fan too. Yeah,
you can see him in those first like media scrums when he's sitting next to him. He's glowing. He's like a 16-year-old girl with a crush.
Yeah, not the last one. The last one, he looked like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
But again, with that happening, that got people talking. So what's to say that people still tuned in saying, okay, because it really and honestly, there's no bad press. Any press is good press. So if you have all this like
there's
shit,
a line, but
there is a line, but I feel like they haven't crossed it yet with Punk.
No,
because they had so much shit where I almost feel like they're going to troll everyone. Like I almost feel like they actually worked out already with the Bucks and him, and that like they're gonna end up having a match on this night, and it's gonna fucking be huge. Like when they finally have Omega and him and the Bucks and FTR.
It'd be stupid not to do that. It would be stupid not to do it. I mean, if they're all professionals and if they're all putting it behind them as much as they seem to say they are, they'll do it.
One thing with AEW that I think is like they totally get with WWE, like way past them, is that there is a blurry line between what's real and what's not with them. You have no fucking idea anymore, like none. Like so you hear all these rumors about this and this and that, whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like, there is zero proof that any of it is real. So like it almost brings that an excitement back into wrestling when you're like, is there really backstage heat? Is there not? Does these people hate each other? Why are they fighting? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's like they have all this shit that you have no idea. None.
They're not afraid to bring reality into the storylines. Like you look at Eddie and Claudio right now, like they're using an actual feud from back in the day. Presumably they get along or they wouldn't work together, know? But like they're using that real life heat. What's that?
Now that you said Eddie Kingston, have you noticed that every time he comes out, he gets a pop, no matter what state, what area?
Who are we talking about?
Just Eddie Kingston. Anyway, go ahead.
From Jamaica.
Yes, that's right. Anyway, but yeah, they do a really good job of doing that, and like WWE does not. Like because I think the WWE has so many like all these reality TV shows behind the scenes now and this and that. Like everything is so like to the point that it's like the only one that really didn't know until recently was Undertaker. Undertaker he stayed character throughout his whole entire fucking career
so
until
funny. Sergeant Slaughter.
Until recently. Yeah, Sergeant
but
Slaughter
that
was another one
in a weird way.
in a weird way, a way that you're like, dude, you're fucking old.
Yeah.
But but I do believe Undertaker was the one person that you just didn't see any different changes in his personal life, with the media, with he was always in character until he retired,
Yeah.
kind of.
I
Then all of
mean,
a sudden he decided.
Undertaker had
But
the benefit of not coming up during the era of social media, so you know everything about him, so that everybody has to form an opinion of the details of their personal life that nobody ever used to know about before, for good or ill, right? I mean, some of those people were dirtbags. I loved Jimmy Snuka growing up, but turns out like he did some bad shit. Like if we knew about that, probably would have been good. Maybe some people wouldn't have got hurt,
And to bring her back around to Punk, I feel like that's why a lot of people still stick by him, because what you see is what you get.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm
I'm
saying?
not a fan of like what you see is what you get all the time, though. Donald Trump
not
was sort
either.
of what you see was what you get. That was his appeal, and
We just
I
lost
don't
half
give
of
him.
the
We lost half of our listeners if anybody's listening. But like, if you're a Trump supporter,
all
you
two
can
of
jump
them.
in the lake. I don't give a shit.
All two of them. But
Yeah.
what's it called? No, but I agree that I'm not a fan of that too. But at least he's consistent. At least he's consistent, where it's like he is who he is. And Tony Khan knows this. He knew what he was getting into when he got him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew the controversy. He knew, like, and he seemed like he opened it with open arms, of saying, okay, I know what I'm going to get into, but I guess he feels like it's going to benefit him in the long run.
And listen, man, I was excited like at the prospect of it, and when he first showed up, and like in the beginning we were arguing about it, not on a podcast before we had a podcast, but like you were like, I'm not into this guy, and I was like, no, he's great, his promos, blah blah blah. But like now, the whole like what you see is what you get thing is like, I don't know. For if I have to pat myself on the back a little bit, like I think I'm matured a little bit beyond that at this point. Like that whole promo you were saying where he came off as kind of a dick to me, just like, I don't need to apologize. And I'm like, well, you're a grown up. Maybe you should learn how to apologize sometimes. Maybe you should learn how to compromise. I'm not attracted to a person who never has to apologize or compromise. That's the definition of a sociopath, if you ask me. But I mean, I'm like, I don't want to just shit on Punk right now. So let me say on the other side, like, part of that I think is his character. And a lot of that I think is his wrestling persona in general. There are people who are one way at their job and another way in their personal life.
I feel like Punk is both.
I feel like in his personal life, Punk is somebody I'd probably get along with. In his work life, maybe not. He's the kind of a pushy guy who's going to get his way. I have friends who are like that, either at work or like that I've been in bands with and stuff. Like outside of work or outside of the band, we're great, and inside of those areas, no, because they're pushy and controlling. And I feel like Punk's one of those people. Might be one of those people. I don't know. Just from like a lot of hearsay and what we read, and but from not necessarily always reliable sources. But like I'm with him on politically. Like we have the same politics. He still seems to be like. When he first came into AEW, he was adamant about putting people over. He knew what his star power was, and he wouldn't go through a promo without at least name dropping at least a couple of other people on the roster who were like on the ascend, people who he knew would get a bump from him bigging them up in his promo, like a Darby Allin or a Jungle Boy or somebody like that. So like he has an altruistic side. He's not all just about Punk. Even if that altruism is driven by like self-aggrandizement or like, making himself feel like, important, but like it's there. So like I'm not just, there's two sides to everybody. And I feel like there's two sides to Punk, and I understand both sides.
See, with me, it's like I agree with actually most of the stuff that he says, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with how he did it. And that was the whole thing with me with the scrum. Like, I feel like that you have to do it in a more mature, professional way. But I
Yeah.
do agree with a lot of things he says, and I think that's why a lot of people love him, is because he doesn't care what people say. Like, all right, well, I'm just gonna make this promo, and I don't give a shit if I'm gonna get the okay to say it or not. Because I heard that whole counterfeit bucks line wasn't even okayed. He did that off
Yeah.
the cuff. So
Which was a good line.
yeah, so I respect that of him, and I respect the fact that he what's it called it he does that with a lot of the stuff that he does, and he probably says a lot of things that people say. The one thing I don't like, though, is that people who are for him or against him, they will take his word like it's gold without even seeing for themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he could say something like the counterfeit buck, which again, I like the Bucks. I don't mind them. I do think that their matches are always good, but they seem to be the same as everywhere you go. Like they're
Yeah.
nothing. They don't really top anything to me. It's every match is exactly the same, but they're good. I think they're really good.
Yeah.
But I think that you have certain people that just, okay, whatever he says, I'm gonna go with, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do my own opinion. And that's what his star power is, and that's why because he knows that, he should be careful of what he says or does in a public view, knowing damn well that he has certain people saying that, okay, no matter what he says is golden, and that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. And
Does that make sense?
no, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that's a problem nowadays in general, not just with Punk, but with a lot of people who don't take seriously the microphone that they have, the level of like how far they are able to reach with the things that they say, and they don't want to take responsibility for it. You know what I mean?
He's relatable.
He's relatable, and he should be able to say, I don't mind if he's gonna make a crack like about the Bucks and it wasn't like okayed, like that's fine. You shouldn't have to have every line okayed. Like promos are not gonna feel right if they're scripted or like, pre-screened.
And they played along with it. They changed their Instagram to that. They like, and I guarantee you they'll probably sell shirts saying counterfeit bucks. They'll make it marketing. You know what I'm saying? So
they said something about that. Like, yeah, like they said, like if this was like 5 years ago, we would have made a T-shirt, which they like with the cease and desist T-shirt they did when like Vince tried to get them to stop saying too sweet. They would totally have done that. But like, if Punk, and this is where he kind of like loses me a little bit, like if he's going to be able to like say off the cuff stuff, taking like blows at people in promos, then he's got to be okay when other people do it. He's got to be okay when Hangman
100%.
does it, or 100%. Eddie Kingston, if he's going to like bust out like a line they didn't discuss. There's a degree to, and for him to call people soft, this is a problem with people in general now. It's like they're I don't even know what the term is for it, but like you see it constantly. People calling all the people they disagree with a thing that's the same thing that they're doing. So right now, the whole thing is because he used the term soft to describe certain fans and wrestlers. Yeah. So now it's all about, oh, these people are soft, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, he had a hissy fit about something Hangman said.
Yeah, and I see that argument too.
You can't call other people soft and then have a fucking tantrum
it's
on a live mic and act like you're not soft because you say it in a deeper voice or with more conviction. You're just as fucking soft. It doesn't matter how you deliver the message, dude.
Yep. I feel like and I get it. He's good. He's great on the mic. Not too many people can probably out mic him.
Eddie Kingston.
Eddie Kingston. I'm glad you said that, because when Eddie Kingston and fucking Punk had it, Eddie Kingston got it. Anyway, but so that brings me back to when I said that, like, when you have this power. So yes, you can't be hypocritical saying, oh, all these people are soft, and like that's the thing. That's his downfall. He seems like he gets pissed off about every fucking thing that is said about him. So therefore, in his return, he says all this shit and doesn't expect any repercussion.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
and you just can't do that. Every action is a reaction.
Yeah.
So if you're getting if a promo no less, he'll say shit in a scrum and like stuff like that. He's actually, you could tell that he means it by the heart too, that he fucking hates these people. Like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, it's not even, it's, they had a fucking fight, for Christ's
Yeah.
sakes. So he's making it where he's taking it to the level where you get into a fight now personally because people have said shit or they said shit or whatever. And I'm like, so to your point, how can he sit there and say all these soft people when like you are actually making it above wrestling now? And
Yeah.
but I still think his fans and his foes don't really think of it that way. They think no matter what, you'll have diehard Punk fans that's gonna, no matter what he says or does, is gonna defend him. And then you have people who are against him that no matter what he says or does, they're gonna be against him with anything he says. It debunks it. That's why I find it funny, like I said, where there's no middle person. Every forum I've seen or everything, that there's no middle person saying, well, I appreciate that this and that. Like we kind of did both angles, but it's just weird how it always reminds me of, and this is so stupid, but it always reminds me of the Stones and Beatles when everyone was all against, like, oh no, the Stones is better, or the Beatles is better. Like,
Yeah.
well, why can't both be good? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it was almost like that era. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, where like no matter
I
what,
know.
everyone
You're on
picked a
one side or the
like,
other.
yeah, like you don't have to necessarily pick a side, unless of course it's Eddie Kingston. But that's besides the point.
And you know the thing with Eddie Kingston, and actually I read some stuff online recently. There's some people who just don't like Eddie Kingston, but
I know.
I have my opinions about that. But for the most part, like when Eddie shows up, it's not 60-40 boos and cheers. Pretty much the
It's
whole
not.
place
It's
is
all
like,
cheers.
go Eddie. And
Yeah.
I think Eddie and Punk are very similar. They have a lot of the same appeal, right?
I agree.
Sort of
I agree.
tell it like it is, pull no punches sort of thing. Great promos. Their ring work is solid,
but
not
could
flashy.
Be better. Yeah.
But could be better.
Yeah. 100%.
But flawless in its way. Like they don't really make a lot of fuck ups for the most part.
Punk is a little
sometimes
rusty.
He's a little rusty and he tries stuff. He tries more stuff, more challenging things than Eddie does.
But also, I will say
let me
that
finish.
Okay.
The big difference between Eddie and Punk is that Eddie's not afraid to be vulnerable.
100%.
Punk has to show no vulnerabilities. Eddie puts his whole self out there, warts and all.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference. Punk might throw something there, like he'll say, like, oh, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. But that's as far as he'll go. Eddie will go deep into the flaws of his character. And he will tell you what his demons are.
Yep.
And
his
what
mental
the mistakes
health issues, everything.
Right.
Yep.
He's not afraid to put his full self on display.
That is why I feel like he gets a crowd cheer everywhere he goes, because he's 100% realistic of most normal human beings. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like he's like almost every normal. Most people deal with mental health issues. Most people deal with demons. Most people deal with most people look like fucking Eddie Kingston. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't care like what people look like, but like I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's too big and he's fat and this and that, whatever. I was like, but he put in his work. He's fucking bad at I think with Punk, there's a lot of hypocrisy in his shit, and that's why people have boos and people have cheers, because they see the hypocrisy of what the things that he's saying when he does it. And to your one thing I will defend Punk on though is that I know he's rusty in the ring, but man, that guy only fought he had like one couple of matches and then he got hurt and he was out for 9 months and he had his first match. So I see where they're going with I actually appreciate Tony Khan putting him in with tag teams and triple teams now, so he doesn't have to do all the work, because he knows he's rusty, and that's a smart move. I will say that's a smart move by Tony Khan.
That's a very smart move, and personally, it's probably the move they should have gone with the first time.
Yes,
because they made him too bigger than life.
Yep,
he became too big to fail, like the financial crisis from 2008.
Yeah, when you have the two people or 3-on-3 or whatever, like when he comes out, then you have a bigger push now because people are waiting for him. And then when they come out,
Yeah.
it
He
was
gets that
almost
hot
like
tag.
Roman Reigns when he was in the Shield, like when Roman was in the Shield, it was like he got the fucking crowd because it's like, okay, he doesn't have to do that many moves, but he's just there for the muscle, blah blah blah. He's there for the star power. That's what Punk should have been. And until Punk got to the point that he's able to do a one-on-one match, I actually appreciate what they're doing now.
Yeah, like they did. What they did with Sting was great.
I love Sting.
Think
how they did with Sting, I love him.
It's perfect.
100%.
They didn't do like what WWE did with Goldberg, which was like really divided people. And I'm not even going to get into that, but I'm not a big Goldberg fan, even though I'd like to be as a Jew, but I'm not a big Goldberg fan. We don't have a lot of Jewish wrestlers. I gotta.
And I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people want Goldberg versus fucking Ryback. I know they're making it out this huge thing. But I'm I don't know that, but whatever.
Nobody. But like they did Sting perfectly, and if they did that something similar with Punk, I think it would have had more longevity. It wouldn't have divided people as much. It wouldn't have caused so much turmoil backstage, and it would still have you would still have had the star power. Like when Sting shows up, even though he shows up once in a while, I mean, you could have had Punk show up more often.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it had to be as limited as Sting, but like when Sting shows up, the crowd still goes nuts for him. Yep. And when he gets that hot tag and when he does his 3 moves with the word Scorpion in the names,
still crazy.
They still love
crazy.
it.
Yep.
And if Punk just like think about how much more excited people would be if it's just like he's hanging on the ropes, waiting, gets the tag, comes in, does the GTS.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for him instead of like a 30-minute match. Tony Khan likes the long matches, and I do too. But like, kind of a slog, waiting for like the denouement, and then
Punk can't really do a long match right now. He definitely can't.
Right. Like it would just be that much more exciting. He came in and did his moves, and people popped and did a fucking promo, and I don't know. It would have been better. I mean, in hindsight, who knows? Who knows what anybody would have done? I might have done the same thing if I was in Tony Khan's position and try to push Punk to the moon.
I'm also curious to see how it goes. I feel like the latest thing though is seeing how I know everyone's going to be staring though. They're going to be staring at the views. They're going to be staring at how Punk does. They're going to be staring so everything is on him now of like, why did he bring this guy back? So I hope that he's just like learned a little bit where he's going to be a little bit more mature about certain things, because if he fucks up again, it's going to be hard for AEW to fucking come back. They'd be like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Like, so because they got into a little stride. So I hope that they learned and he does do good. I know the game just came out. I'm probably going to buy the game. I'll let you know how it is. But I
imagine they'll probably turn him heel, which I think will help.
I think so. He's a heel. He's a natural heel.
He's a natural heel. And the fans that love him he's not going to lose those fans.
No.
So he can get the boos. He can, there's just a lot more wiggle room for him as a heel.
If he stays at this whole anti-hero and he gets like half boos, half cheers pretty much everywhere he goes, that's almost a win, because they got where he wanted then. Because that makes a character. And like, so because most people will get there, and then eventually people are just going to start cheering him because they said, okay, he's obviously sticking around and he's doing, what I'm saying? But like, if he gets that, I think he himself would love that he has the crowd mixed.
One last thing.
Yeah.
As we're running out of time and this is going to be a long episode. I thought it was interesting that they had the match with Satoshi Kojima and like the early on in the card for Forbidden Door.
For what you said though, I agree on is that they probably picked a guy that they know that most people won't cheer that much, but then you said at the end of it anyway, they cheered for the fucking guy anyway.
So funny. So, nobody's giving a shit about Kojima for I don't know how long. It's like 55-year-old undercarder, and he's getting cheers and chants because people are so pissed off at Punk.
But though Punk is probably loving it, honestly. Punk is
Was
probably
it-
loving it.
Yeah, he did love it. He seemed to love it, and it was a good match. You know,
Yeah.
it was what
But
you wanted.
that's why, because if they did anyone else, they would have been cheers right off the bat.
Yeah, I know.
I
thought
think
of so many people.
what I'm
Like,
waiting
why didn't
for.
they put like somebody bigger in there, like Takahashi or Tamatanga? I don't think has ever done a Forbidden Door. I don't know, somebody that the fans would react to more. But I think there's a reason they did somebody kind of more, under the radar.
Last question: who do you think it should take his belt away? His quote unquote belt away?
His bag that supposedly has a belt in it. That's a good question. I mean, Hangman?
I'm gonna say one name that's probably gonna be weirded out, but I think Eddie Kingston should take it.
I never heard of him.
I've never heard of him either, but I feel that he should actually take the belt because he's, like you said, he's similar, and I think the crowd would go fucking nuts because they won't actually. There will be no boos if he lost. If he lost to someone like Hangman Page or there's not, there will be some boos. I guarantee you, there will be no boos if Eddie won.
No booze for Eddie.
On that note,
let's drink some booze.
Drink some booze. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.